The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality?
Seth.
Hello, Leo.
Oh, Seth. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thejewfunction.
Oh, Seth. Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Oh,
the Thejewfunction.
hold on. This double thing here. All right. It's been a long summer, but we're finally back on track. We're hunting down the good Jews, the ones worth talking to. Not only Jews, we've had a few. If you didn't check out our feed, if you're new to the Thejewfunction, you are more than welcome to check out our podcasts here on YouTube or on Spotify. And we have some quite outstanding people that we've been privileged to speak to: Muslims, Christians, Jews, anti-Jews, really everyone who's willing to talk to us about this persisting problem. And I think more than ever, this talk has been converted into action, and also here we're trying to get really more, even more practical, not just to talk about the thesis and the idea in general, but to really get into, okay, what can we do here where we live in our circle in order to start pushing away this problem, overcoming it, rising above it, because we can't win it using conventional warfare, right? Lawsuits, bans, shaming, demanding people like us. That doesn't work so well. So that's what we're trying to do here. That's what the Thejewfunction is all about. And we have a great guest today. But before we start, I wonder, Seth, did you were traveling a little bit? Did you feel any anti-Jewish sentiments anywhere?
No, I just came back from the West Coast. I was in one of the national parks, and huge national park, huge mountains, waterfalls, everything. Really interesting what I saw. So, in order to be there, first of all, it's not easy to get there. It's 3 hours from the closest airport, and and you can't really move around there unless you're physically fit. And what I saw in this place was mostly physically fit people. The people that were there were from all over the world. Tons of Chinese people, tons of European people. Um, there were a good amount of people speaking English, and also lots of families. Tons of families. Everyone, almost everyone I saw, probably more than 80% of all the people I saw in the park, on bikes, on these hikes, was families. And I thought to myself, like, when you get out of the city and nobody's on their phone and you're just out in nature, you have people from all over the world. Like, for example, you go to jump into a waterfall, people just leaving their bags everywhere with their cameras, with their phones, with their wallets, and everyone just jumping. Nobody's thinking that no one's worried that anyone's going to steal their stuff. It's all families, which is unique. When you're in the city, it's not always families, lots of single people, lots of dating people. So you're in absolutely breathtaking nature. These are just some of my takeaways that I observed while I was up there. I didn't
Yeah.
feel any. I didn't feel anti-Semitism. I didn't poll anybody. I wasn't really having conversations with a lot of the strangers I met. But what I saw was a lot of people um, existing next to each other, uh, enjoying nature, and doing it, being physically fit, and doing it with their families. So maybe the solution is just send everybody to a national park. I'm not sure.
Are you saying that there are parts of the world where Jews are not the main topic of conversation, and no one is actively
No,
thinking of
I think that if
how to
people
destroy
are
us?
no, I think if people are hanging out with their families, enjoying nature, enjoying life, then it's
Then
it
you're like
doesn't boil
less likely to become
it
genocidal
doesn't
against the
boil to the
Jews.
top. But if somebody doesn't have the ability financially or otherwise to go on a vacation, and if someone is stuck in life in a difficult situation, I mean, I could have been hiking up this waterfall next to a huge anti-Semite. I don't know. I don't know who these people were, but it wasn't just like rabid. I was just walking through Rhinebeck, New York last night, a couple hours from here, and on the flagpole there was, like 300 days of genocide, like obviously anti-Israel like posters around.
Right.
Um, I think if people have the ability to be with their families, to be enjoying nature, to be enjoying the company of others, to be around other people who are um, also enjoying themselves. So I don't think it has a like. I think the anti-Semitism probably creeps in when people are feeling pain and suffering, feeling problems.
Unless you're a Jew, in which case you might be hating on other Jews constantly, right? Not just when there's pain and suffering, or maybe there is. Well, maybe it is triggered by pain and suffering, but it persists. And I'm bringing this topic deliberately. It's not, I'm not just pulling it out of thin air, because we have a great guest today to talk to us about this topic, which I think Jews don't like to talk about in general. I don't think anybody likes to talk. Like, imagine Jews were like this one person, right? And there was this part of this person that really hated himself and had like, suicidal thoughts and self-mutilating thoughts. We'd say this person is unhealthy, right? Unwell. And I think there aren't that many other cultures, not that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe you can help us if you're in the chat. That where people from that culture, that nation, are actively working against the rest of the people in that nation, right? It's an interesting phenomenon. It's called auto-antisemitism, and we have an amazing guest. If you've stuck with us since October 7th, you've seen her briefly in one of our panels, but we decided we needed to spend some quality time with her alone. She was, when I met her, I met her after, but she was an NBC Telemundo reporter in the tri-state area in New York. And then after she was also a CNN World Report contributor in El Salvador, where she's originally from. And then she moved to Israel. She got all her degrees, and then she moved to Israel, and she continued to write and to be a correspondent, a journalistic correspondent, but also joined the diplomatic corps through her husband and traveled the world there. And finally, she settled, and she is now working as a writer and researcher on anti-Semitism for the Kabbalah La'Am Association that's based in Israel. And two publications that she was involved with prominently recently was New Anti-Semitism, Mutation of a Long-Lived Hatred, and the one that we're interested about most right now, Jewish Self-Hatred, the Enemy Within. Norma Livne, please join us.
Hello,
Norma.
how are you?
Good.
We're great. We're great. How are you? You
Thank
look
you for
so
such
happy.
a nice introduction, first of all. When Leo invited me to this talk, he said, bring wine or something, but maybe you're the ones who are supposed to provide.
It's sent. It was sent out. It should be there in the 3 to 4 business weeks.
Not bad.
For our next talk. You're in
sure.
Israel right now, right? Correct?
Correctly, yes. I live in Tel Aviv and I work in Petah Tikva, that many of you probably haven't heard of. But it's half an hour from Tel Aviv. Yeah, that's the place where I work, but I live in Tel Aviv.
And I'm curious, just a little bit, because first of all, I'm also personally curious, but maybe also people watching are curious. How did you end up from El Salvador? I think I've been to the El Salvador airport, great airport. There was great ceviche there. How do you go from El Salvador, this tiny place that few people are even aware of its existence, and you end up in Israel writing about anti-Semitism? Can you encapsulate this journey in 3 minutes or less?
Yeah, it's interesting because you said it's such a small place, and not many people know what it is. And it's the same size of Israel. Can you imagine? It's the same population, and it's the largest community in California, Texas, and other places in America. The second largest, I think, after the Mexicans.
What do you mean, second largest Jewish community?
No. I'm talking about Salvadorians.
What are they?
The second largest population.
The second largest
after Mexicans.
minority after Mexicans in California, for instance.
In California.
Yeah. And I think in Washington as well. No,
So
I'm
how
just
do you,
referring to what Leo said, that it's a very tiny place and that not many people
You know,
have heard
when I
about
was, it's so weird. You're saying this. I'm remembering in the late 70s or early 80s, I was in the back seat of my parents' car. Somehow I remember the melody of the chant, and I remember somebody saying that it was also dun 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 atita dun dun danita tutti. They were out there. It was the first time I ever saw anyone doing that, and for some reason, I remember the melody of their was there some protest in the late 70s or early 80s?
probably.
probably.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thanks for that great addition, Seth. We'll
Yeah, sorry. I thought
wrap
it was
it.
going to be something
Yeah.
meaningful.
Yeah, you can make it. We can make
Parentheses.
a ringtone out of it. Let's get back to Norma for a second. What?
Back to your question.
Yeah, how'd
Yes.
you end up in America?
Actually, there's a very small community in El Salvador. It's around 200 to 250 families. And I decided to emigrate to Israel with my husband after he finished his position in El Salvador as a diplomat. So I made Aliyah. I emigrated to Israel, and that's the story. It was more than 20 years ago.
But hold on, but in the middle, you are working as a reporter. You leave Israel to work as a reporter, and then you come back, and also he's a diplomat. So you keep. I feel like you keep.
Yeah, we were moving all the time. We were back and forth. We were posted for 3-4 years abroad, and then we had to get back to Israel for 2-3 years, and then again to another post abroad. And that was the story for 20 years until we finished. Our last post was in New Zealand, and then we came to Israel. But yes, I also lived in New York, and that's the place where I worked for Telemundo for the tri-state area. And and I was more aware of the American culture when we lived there. And my 21 years old son was born there, Alon.
In New York.
So he's a New Yorker, yes.
Nice, like my kid. And wait, and so growing up, did you feel any anti-Semitism when you grew up, when you matured? Was that something on your radar at all?
Actually, it wasn't, because it's not something that you are aware of as you are when you are older, when you get older. For instance, in our different posts, we experienced that as representatives of the state of Israel, because my husband was an Israeli diplomat. So that was a different story. So you can be bullied as a Jew, and you can be bullied also as an Israeli Jew, which is an addition to that kind of level of hatred. And my kids, when they were in school in New Zealand or in other countries, they also experienced that. And that's the situation that moved me the most, because it was more personal to me. When something touches your kids, that's a different story. So then I decided to investigate more about this specific kind of hatred, and trying to find a solution as well. Because we have heard and we have read tons of information about anti-Semitism, but nobody is talking about the cure. What is the solution to the problem? For ages, for years, we have tried everything and nothing has worked. So I thought there must be a solution. There's no such a thing that this is something that we have to live with forever.
Like a curse, the curse of the Jews. Right?
Exactly. So,
well, we talk. Obviously, we're friends also outside the store, and that Seth and I have been, talking about this for many years, and talking about the solution, at least the way that we're seeing it unfolding based on historic patterns and words of Jewish sages, and even network science. Like a lot of things point to a certain in a certain direction, which I think a lot of people are more open to hearing today. Maybe not the full kind of picture, but at least the idea that, hey, when we're together, we're stronger. Somehow it works to our benefit to unite, to care about each other. There's something there. Others are saying it. This is all, we're feeling like a good, backwind on this topic. What is getting in the way a little bit is, the practicalities. Like, okay, we're interested. We want to support this, your crazy idea. We want to be part of it, but there's all these obstacles. And then when you peel the layers and you look, a lot of the obstacles are placed by Jews. Like Jews, I'm not even talking about the fact that our own infighting and bickering causes problems. That we already dealt with, so to speak. Like we talked about it. But we're seeing that there's Jews actively working against the Jewish state, against Jewish interests, against Jews. What is that about? And tell me maybe how you got to that topic and to the book that you wrote.
First of all, we need to realize our nature as Jews. We constantly have disagreements about anything and everything. It's part of our DNA. And there's this saying that there are 2 Jews and 3 opinions, and 1 Jew and 2 different synagogues, and it's a kind of a joke, but it's true. And so there's no problem with disagreements. I think that's important, and that's why we have so many achievements, because from the disagreements we find new solutions and new creative ways of solving problems. But when it comes to auto-antisemitism or self-hatred, that's a different level, because we're talking about the negation of our own roots, and we are trying to annihilate our own people, because you see Jews that are actively working to make Israel disappear from the map. How come? I haven't seen it. I think that I heard what you said in the introduction, that you haven't seen any other people in the world that is capable of doing such a thing. You don't see it anywhere with any other nation. So what's different for the Jews to be ready to sell their own family, their own people? Because it's a kind of a sale thing.
Maybe there's good money involved. I don't know. Like what?
God forbid. I don't know. It's an ideological problem. It's even worse. And you see that with BDS and other movements that are anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist or anti-Israel, and they feel very proud of doing it. And the reason is that they want to be accepted by others. They want to be part of them. They don't want to be different from anybody else. But the issue is
I'm just to clear. So you said this is driven by some deep seated desire to just be accepted by others, just be part of the club. Is this what it's about?
This is one of the reasons, but there's an inner or more in-depth reason, which is the internal conflict of someone who refuses to be Jewish or to implement our call to action, which is to be the example to the world of unity, because we are the ones who received those skills or the know-how in Mount Sinai. And this is how the Jewish nation was created. It was one of the conditions to receive the Torah was to be united. So we have that example of how to do it. And this is what people in the world expect from us. But we don't know that. And we are in conflict with that. There's an inner conflict.
So let's.
I don't know if Seth agrees with it, because he seems like,
Before Seth jumps in, I just want to I feel like we ran in, which is good. Maybe before we continue down this path, we could take a step back and you could just tell everyone, just what is exactly Jewish self-hatred, auto-antisemitism. What is that? Maybe not everyone is like, we're talking about it as if we know everything, but what is that phenomenon? Maybe you can give a few examples just so people understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah, one of the examples is what I already mentioned is the organizations that are Jewish organizations, and they are actively working to eliminate the state of Israel. When we hear from the river to the sea, we know what it means. It means that the Jews have no right to exist in the Israeli territory. And when you see that there are Jews in Washington, in the White House, outside the White House, it doesn't matter, I mean, the streets, or in the Capitol, asking for a change of policy because they consider that the American policy is too pro-Israel. That's self-hatred, because at the end of the day, they are in that way trying to delegitimize the existence of the state of Israel.
Okay, can you give? I heard of I think some people they're familiar with the work of George Soros, who is arguably one of the more well-known or infamous Jews who seem to be working not always in line with Israel, the Israeli state, the interest of the Israeli state. There's also what's his name, Howard Horowitz, right, who runs this organization in the U.S. who backs a lot of the pro-Palestinian demonstrations. From the research that you've done, are these all like new expressions of this phenomenon, or did it always exist? Like, how far back do you find that existing in among Jews, among us? Like, how long have we been sick, Doctor?
Unfortunately, I've seen too many examples throughout our history as Jewish people, and it goes back to the temple. The destruction of the temple was due to unfounded hatred, and it's not a new story. It's not a new story, It's in history you see throughout the years many examples of that in ancient history as in recent events as well. Only a few years ago, there was a resolution by the German parliament saying that the BDS was anti-Semitic. And right after that, there was a letter signed by Jewish scholars, more than 250 Jewish scholars, and also Israeli personalities, rejecting that. They said, no, you are wrong. Anybody has the right to be against Israel and to boycott Israel, depending on their policies, and we shouldn't be quiet, and this is part of freedom of expression. So otherwise we are limiting that, and we are a democracy. In a democracy, you are able to do whatever you want and whatever you want to say or to express. And it's not the case in Germany, because they have very strict laws against incitement and prejudice. So this is one of the initiatives they had, and those who were against that were Jewish. You see the point. You see the contradiction. I mean, it's quite interesting.
It's not interesting. It's terrifying. I mean, what are they hoping to achieve? What's the end game? Are you able to? Maybe if we think about the temple and all of that, it's all convoluted. It's hard to understand. Okay, this religious stream was against this religious stream. It may seem like they were all crazy, but when you look, at the world today, the Jews after the Holocaust finally have a homeland, and they're all gathered there, and we're trying to make the best out of it. And we have this huge issue with the local, with the Palestinian population and with the Arab states around us, and we're struggling. We're doing pretty well as a country, but we're still, everything is very precarious all the time. And you have these people, our own people, actively working. Sort of, I guess, what is the vision that they have? Maybe maybe they mean well, and it just comes out in the wrong way. I don't know what's what are they aiming for?
They want to be accepted in society. They first of all, they want to refuse their roots because they feel that if they sympathize with other causes that are against Israel, they will be likable and they will be accepted better. They're going to have they have better opportunities in society, maybe at work, at school, etc. You know, everybody wants to be like the masses. And it's not very popular, especially these days, to be pro-Israel. And some people, even if they are, they don't want to express it because it's not part of the masses or the mainstream. You see it in the media and in politics, in different fields, that it's more popular to express anti-Israel rhetoric. So it's a matter to be to fit in society.
But no, I get it, but you know, you don't have to, excuse my French, crap on your own people to fit in. You know, there's other ways. You can give money to charity. You can support some local causes. You know, if you live outside of Israel, why go to such lengths to, you know, to really undermine Israel? And how come they don't see that that in the end it's going to maybe turn against them?
Let me see if I can find excerpt from one of the Israeli thinkers, and he's an Holocaust survival. He was interviewed by the New York Times a few years ago, and it's part of the book. Let me see if I can find it because it expresses exactly what we're trying to.
Seth, you also, while Norma is looking,
explain.
Seth, you also have the book, right? But
okay, yeah, the book is this one. It's a Jewish self-hatred, the enemy within.
Norma, you want to see my copy? This is my copy.
Okay.
Why does my copy look like this? Because I was
know.
traveling and I
Okay.
couldn't be on an airplane with the cover, so I literally tore the cover and the binding off because I didn't want to be on the airplane. Jewish self-hatred.
He was besieged by self-hatred against the book.
Oh, that's
So my copy is missing the cover.
nice. Okay, so I found it. It's a novelist and Holocaust survivor, Aaron Appelfeld. He said, anti-Semitism directed at oneself was an original Jewish creation. The Jewish ability to internalize any critical and condemnatory remark and castigate themselves is one of the marvels of human nature. Day and night, the flame of that feeling produces dread, sensitivity, self-criticism, and sometimes self-destruction. Only one thing may be said in its favor. It harms no one except those afflicted with it. So at the end of the day, we're causing harm to ourselves. And that's the thing that we don't realize. And our enemies don't make any distinction between.
It's a wonder that we can't just, stop the clock for a minute and just put, like in Mauritania, I think a place is called, there's still slavery today. Like over 100,000 people are born into slavery. There's other places where if you're gay, you get executed. Like there's like, can we just stop the clock and just like put everything on the table and let's look at it? And would the Jewish well, here's a question, and maybe this is a real sober question for us. If we stop the clock and put everyone's quote unquote sins on the table, is there something about the Jews that is so terrible that this is why this hatred is, that even the Jews are turning on themselves because of it? Is there something that the Jews are doing that is so so contrary to the health of humanity? Because so Mauritania has over 100,000 slaves, and this other place You can get an exemption to marry a girl if she's 10 years old. And this place, you can murder a gay person or beat the crap out of your wife if she talks back to you. But none of that is nearly as bad as the Jews. Can we say that? Is there something that the Jews do that's worse than everything else, and this is the reason why even a Jew hates himself?
Look, I think that we are doing very good things for the world. If you realize we have so many inventions and so many things that are helping the world, and we're a startup nation as Israel, but that's from the material perspective. But we are called to be the light unto the nations, to love our brothers as ourselves, and we are not doing that. And we are the ones who receive that call.
It might
from the
be,
creation.
I don't know if it's from the Talmud or where it is, but it says, for the wicked, it's like a hair's breadth, and for the righteous, it's like a mountain. It's like if you don't expect someone who's not capable of doing anything good, but as someone who is totally capable of doing something good, if they don't, then you do hold them responsible. And maybe this is at the heart of what we're talking about. You mentioned at the beginning that the Jewish people, hold on, I got a quote from your book, the Jewish nation wasn't made for itself, but to serve as an example. And you had a really bold quote there, the Jew holds the key to the world's happiness. So they have a few slaves and they have child brides and they murder the gays, but if the Jews are holding the key to the entire world's happiness and they're not letting it out, so maybe that's the biggest crime.
I don't know if it's a crime, but it's something that we are not accomplishing, and that we are supposed to do that. We exist for that particular reason. That's the goal. That's why we were created to begin with, but we are not doing it. So there's a rejection or a demand, to say it better, from the world toward us because of that reason. They are not pushing any other people but us. They have this unconsciously perception. They have the unconscious perception that we are the ones who are supposed to solve the problems, and because we are in a different level, but it's not from that perspective of trying to teach or to preach others, but to serve others, which is another reason that we avoid being Jewish, or we don't want to be Jewish, because we say that, yeah, that's one of the problems. That's what I've heard. Okay, this is one of the reasons of anti-Semitism, that if we say that we are the light unto the nation, so what about the rest of the people? Aren't they that? I mean, why only the Jews? But the reason is that we were created for that purpose, to serve, which is different, than saying that we are coming here from above, looking at everybody else from above.
So if you have everything that everybody needs and you're withholding it, so it's normal, like the peasants coming to the landowner's big house, and their demand, like they're shouting for food or whatever, and he's hoarding everything, right? But then you have another problem. Stop any Jew anywhere. He does not think in any way that he has this responsibility, nor does he feel that he has the ability or the tools to do this. I'm not talking about a religious person who believes that by eating kosher he's gonna putting on his tefillin, that God's gonna fix all the problems in the world. But if you take a secular Jew or a cosmopolitan Jew and ask him, are you responsible for the problems of the world? He has no idea what you're talking about. So first of all, we're saying that the Jew back from Sinai. He got this role because they united, and the world is waiting for the Jew. The Jew holds the key to humanity's happiness, and the Jews need to be an example of unity to the world. And who the heck has any idea what you're talking about? What are you talking? What are we supposed? Okay, fine. Suppose we all agree that you're right. Suppose you talk to every Jew, and every Jew says, "All right, fine. I don't really get it, but I'm willing. Everything else is not working. I'm willing to try." What to even do? Are we supposed to go to some meeting somewhere and get a special tool and then take it home and put it together and then go out on Wednesday afternoon and aim it towards the sky? What are we supposed to do about it? The whole thing is elusive. It's not just like everyone looks at the Jews. Oh, you have the money. You're doing the wrong thing. As if like the Jew knows what he's supposed to do in order to bring the whole world happiness.
Let's put it this way. If we analyze it from the other side of the coin, when the 7th of October happened, I remember a few days after that, I read the newspaper what Nasrallah said, the head of Hezbollah, and also Sinwar, the head of Hamas. They said that they were waiting for the right moment to attack. And it was when they felt that the Israeli society was weak. How did they know that it was weak? Because we were separated. There was a huge division, which actually remains, unfortunately. So when they feel that we are separate to each other, that's the time for them to attack us and to try to annihilate us. So it means that if we do the opposite, if we are strong and united, that's our main shield. And I think that nobody can refute that. I mean, it's something that is so obvious. It's in front of our eyes. You have this sense of security, safety net when we are closer to each other. And the opposite is when we are facing internal conflicts and struggles, then you see that everybody wants to attack us. And then we have all kinds of threats. So it means that there's a different way. And we see it. It's implemented. I mean, when it's implemented, we can sense it. It's not only words. If you think that that's irrational, I mean, I think that the hatred against Jews is irrational. And you can explain it in something tangible. That's, for me, tangible. Even though we don't know how that force works between us. When we are united, we can activate that force that protects us. We don't see it, right? It's like when a plane is traveling, you don't see that there's a force that is moving and pushing the plane forward, but it's there.
Well, so the question that I have, we've been talking about this issue, and I think we here we're pretty confident about the need to bring the Jews together. That there's something there. There's some deeper force at work when we unite in this way. We become more similar to nature, more equivalent, and all those great things. I think the question, and specifically
what to do.
Well, not even what to do, but I'm saying what to do. While faced with this sort of unusual resistance from within. Okay, if it was just a matter of letting people know that this is what we're trying to do here, let's get everyone interested in that and start doing that. Fine, but we have people actively working against us who are from within us. How do we deal with those people? What can you do? Or is the solution just to ignore them? Or are they there just they serve some other function, as we like to say?
I think they are helping us because they are showing us what is the problem that we need to solve.
Jews are helping us?
they are helping us, of
Self-hating
course.
Jews.
Otherwise, we don't have the other side to look at us, like in the mirror, and we see what's going on with us and what we need to fix. If you don't have this way of comparing the right state and the opposite state, there's no way for you to move forward or to find a solution to that particular problem. So I see it as an opportunity, because at the end of the day, they will also realize that what they are doing, they think that they are doing something positive, but it's maybe positive even for themselves, and it's quite the contrary. Because look, I know that this is very extreme, but Hitler didn't make any distinction between observant Jew, a Reformed Jew, or a conservative Jew. That time, there were no so many distinctions, but what's the point? What I'm trying to say, and it's the same now. Do you think that they will be more protected if they are more pro-Palestinian or more anti-Israel or anti-Jews? They will not.
No. We've already seen that. We brought this up in a couple of talks already. The women movement, the Million Women March, right? That was started by 5 women, a black woman, a Latina woman, a Palestinian woman, maybe 4, and this Jewish woman, Jewish American woman, and then they all eventually, after the first few rounds that they've done this march, they had conversation. They started to turn against the Jewish woman, who was one of the founders. She was like probably the founder with one other girl, and they turned against her. Like, oh, you should check your own role in perpetuating racism and all this and all that. And she's like, what are you talking about? We're like, we're fighting for the same thing. No, we are, but not you. Basically kicked her out. So we know it doesn't give you anything, but it's like somehow these people are impervious. It seems almost like they're being motivated by some really strong desire there. I don't know. It's hard to explain it. Like they're so motivated. Yeah, I mean, Soros and everything is doing, and this guy's been meddling with things, not just Israel, like all over the world. He's like on a mission, and Horowitz, this other guy that I happen to hear about him, he's been doing it since the 70s, and he's been like, motivated and financing, like, what do you do against such forces?
That's what I'm saying, that it can be, we can combat those kind of forces only when we have that kind of conscious decision of uniting between us. And otherwise, there's no end of the road.
I'd like to make another clarification on the whole thing, because you mentioned that this thing started around the time of the temple, right? And
Yes.
what you said that
Second Temple
Sinwar
was
said,
destroyed because of unfounded hatred.
okay, so what you said that Sinwar said that we were waiting for there to be division amongst the Jews. Leo, who was it? Was it Titus?
Titus was the one who eventually entered the Jerusalem and said that it's like terrible, but he wasn't the only one. I mean,
but he waited until the civil war between the Jews got, he said they killed themselves. We just had to come in and just
correct
take over. So it reminds me of what you said about October 7th. But something else that you wrote in your book about Philo of Alexandria. He was a Hellenized Jew, meaning like very modern cosmopolitan Jew, and he was talking about the temple. Thousands of people from thousands of cities, some by land, some by sea, from the east and from the west, the north and the south, would come each festival to the temple as if to a common shelter, a safe haven protected from the storms of life, with hearts filled with good hopes. They take this vital vacation with sanctity and with glory to God. They make friendships with people they hadn't met before, and merging of the hearts. And in the merging of the hearts, they would find the ultimate proof of unity. It's a beautiful accounting of what would happen 3 times a year at the temple in Jerusalem amongst the Jews. And even at that very high degree, and even at that point where they were actualizing it at some degree, this thing still happened. So I just want to peel back another layer and say that, you said we learn from these self-hating Jews. It gives us, you said you can't learn one thing from the opposite. Maybe even something like this helps us understand the role towards the entire world, that even if they have this thing amongst themselves, until it cracks open and spills out and fills the whole world, it's not done. And these forces are going to keep coming in and trying to crack it open until it spreads more. And these forces are going to, what I'm trying to get to, Norma, is that even during the temple, even during this time of intense connection and unity, where everybody felt like brothers, even strangers, we still had this Jewish self-hatred. So it has to point to something even more than what was there. And I want to just, if you can, just point to some ultimate goal. What is the ultimate final goal that these Jews have to aim, that the Jews need to work towards?
Yeah, even before that, I refer to what you just mentioned, and also Leo mentioned that before. Why? I mean, why are we trying to jeopardize ourselves? How come we're doing that? And the reason is, it's also in the Torah that we are stiff-necked people. So we are very stubborn. And I don't know if some mean well. They think that they are doing the best they can. I have doubts about it. But at the end of the day, I insist that you cannot build the middle of the road if you don't have the two opposites to compare, to see what is the right way and the wrong way. And this is the position we are in now. We're in a crossroads, trying to figure out what is the next step for us as a people. And it's a matter of survival. Whether they like it or not, they can continue as they are doing, and they are trying to harm other fellow Jews, and it will, at the end, affect them. So what is the ultimate goal? Is to raise above our differences. It won't disappear. We will have always different opinions, but we're going to be different. We're going to think different, but we need to raise above those differences. That's the main goal. Again, it's not that you are avoiding or erasing those differences. We need to learn to be together, because we have no option. I mean, we've tried everything and nothing has worked for ages. So there must be another way. And this is what all the sages have told us throughout history, that this is the solution to our problems: to be united, to be a single unit, one people,
And what can
regardless color, preferences, political agendas, etc.
And so if we give, there's 2 ways to get a person to move: either a kick in the ass from behind, which we have a couple thousand years of, or some really, really compelling future, like I don't know, some vision of some life that you could have. And if you just go to the gym, or you just go to work, or you just do this, then you can have this life in the future. So okay, let's say we do what you're saying. What is either, how are we going to get everyone to move? Either kicks from behind, which we're getting, or some compelling future. So what's you've gave us the method, but what's the compelling future that we'll have if we do this?
What's the carrot, Norma?
What is
But-
what?
What's the carrot?
See,
We know the stick. What's the carrot? Before you answer, let's get a little word from our sponsor, and then think about that carrot, and then we'll get.
Okay.
So. Thejewfunction is really
They always see your desktop.
It's a desperate attempt.
We saw your desktop. What are
So
we
my
selling
desktop.
today?
Okay, hold
Yeah.
on. Sorry, now you don't see me. That's okay. Hold on. There's some technical difficulties. There it is. That should be. No, that's not it. Right. Oh, it's great. I love these technical difficulties. Hold on. Hang on. All right, it's coming. There it is. Thejewfunction is really it's a desperate attempt to change something about the rise in anti-Semitism that doesn't seem to go away, and looking at history usually ends with something terrible before we reach relative quiet again. But we don't want to reach something terrible. We want to do it now. So that's why we're doing this podcast. And if you like this, also consider leaving a small contribution on our Patreon channel. Right, we both have day jobs, by the way, so we're not hoping to make money from this. We're hoping to see some change of heart.
Any funds are used to get this out there, to get this to people. We consider this the same way you go out every day to get money to feed your family, put a roof over your head. This is also critically important to our future, to our safety, to a good world, not only for Jews, but for everyone.
Well, this is the Thejewfunction, and let's get back to our guest. All right. What's the carrot, Norma?
Survival, happiness, fulfillment, security. Those are the aspects that we will be able to achieve when we unite. And this is what all the sages and Kabbalists throughout history have taught us. And you can find many of the excerpts in the book, but maybe I can take one of them, which is Rav Kook. It says, Israel is the essence of all being, and there is no movement in the world, in all nations, that will not find its example in Israel. The nation whose complete universality lies in the depths of its soul.
What page is that one on?
I don't know.
Oh. Okay.
I just found it here. But you can find all the excerpts at the end of the book. Everything is compiled there.
Oh, that's nice.
Beautiful excerpts. Yeah.
I just opened up to a page here from the Antiquities of the Jews by Flavius. It says 70 years after King Solomon, another king of Israel, as soon as he had taken upon the government upon him, he took upon himself the slaughter of his brethren and his father's friend, who were the governors under him, and thence made a beginning of a demonstration of his wickedness. 70 years after King Solomon. This has been going on a long time, even amongst Jews in power. It makes me feel like it makes me feel like it's not something political we're talking about. It's not even something like existential, just so that we may live, but it seems like structural. It seems much, much bigger, and it seems structural in, I think that this kind of conversation requires a whole nother level of depth. We talked about it pretty much, on the street level so far, but it seems that there's something much, much deeper behind all this. If you have a king of Israel who's doing the same thing, and you have a Soros who's doing the same thing, and you have the BDS who's doing the same thing, it's What the heck is going on here?
Yeah, you say it's not a matter of survival, it's deeper than that. But at the end of the day, we are egoistic creatures, and we won't move a finger unless we are convinced that that movement will give me something for my benefit. So that's our nature, and we need to understand that. You know, we cannot be very naive and say that it's only something that you don't get any kind of benefit from
No,
it.
you can be really naive actually. I mean, if you look at, I'm challenging you, not in order to squeeze out the refinement here, because you look at, for example, the U.S., where 40+% of the population is obese and continues to live these kind of lifestyles. Like, people continue to do things that are not good for them because they're, did Goebbels say it? You know, like, if you just keep repeating a lie long enough, like there's some mechanism in us that if we hear something enough times, we accept it as truth, even if it's not. So people, we are egoistic, but that system can be hijacked by people with bad intentions. So that's also part of the system. Like, it's not just so clear, like, okay, here's the good, you know, do this and everything will be good, and do this, everything will be bad. That would be really clear. But everything is so mixed up. All the good is mixed up with the bad, and all the bad is mixed up with the good. And here we are, like three people, you know, on a Sunday afternoon trying to figure this out. And you know, meanwhile, there's like literal slaves, you know, that nobody's talking about,
I
you know.
um I want to just to bring it back again to the issue, because yes, we know this might be a little, you know, challenging to implement, and we need the stick, we need the carrot, all those things, and we kind of, we like to lean into the solution sooner than later, but I do feel like there's maybe even more like really pragmatic things that we can discuss with respect to this phenomenon. Because I was reading, there was this good article by Dr. Zoha Raviv. You know this guy, Norma?
Yes.
You probably know, yeah.
Yeah.
And he talked about he talked about the connection to Israel, that is sort of like it sort of wore off from generation to generation. It becomes weaker and weaker, and they identify with the narratives that are in the universities. Like, if I have to come down from the internal system that we like to talk about, the internal forces that pit one good versus evil and all that, and just into the everyday things, then he's like, okay, there's a problem on college campuses. They're being washed by these ideas, and some people say they've been, you know, outright lied to by the education system, and they bought into it because somehow they felt more connected to, more identified with what's happening on campus than what's happening in Israel, like with their brothers and sisters in Israel. They sort of put more weight on what some professor and some kids movement is saying on campus than what people, their own blood, so to speak, right, are saying in Israel. And they do this copy paste from, oh, you know, Europe, colonialism, oh, it's Israel, like it's all messed up. So the question is there something that we can do about what this generation that is growing? Forget about the Soros and these other big guys. We can't reach them probably, but this generation that's growing up before our eyes, and they're not with us. You know, is there something? Is this something that you know that you think about? And I know your kids are in college. We're like, what's
Yeah, actually, my elder son was accepted to an American university, and then October 7th happened, and all the demonstrations and activities and campuses, he decided not to go to that university in New York. It said something worrying about it, and he didn't feel that kind of this feeling of protection or safety. But being abroad so many years, I felt something like a family when I saw others from the Jewish community. And this is the kind of connection that makes us unique. And this is what we need to preserve, and we also need to enhance, to increase. And again, there are so many differences within the community, but this is a good start. If we look at each other from a different, with different eyes, like a family, not like enemies. And regardless, again, the way of practicing Judaism, but we tend to find those differences make us hate each other. And this is the thing that we need to avoid. If it's a matter of the way we see each other and the way we treat each other, that's a good start. I don't think it's that hard. And it can happen any day, every day, in any given situation.
This is amazing. We've been saying this actually on the last few episodes, that we're such a small group. It shouldn't be that hard. We should be able to create this critical mass between this tiny group of people, and even within this, meaning the Jews, and within that tiny group of people, even a small group of people. Any idea how many of us it'll take to tip that scale?
You know, I remember that when we just arrived in different countries for my husband's posts, and immediately we were invited for Shabbat dinner, and even if we just met each other, we thought, or we felt that we were neighbors for years, or that we knew each other. So I'm sure that you can relate to that kind of feeling. So why don't we nurture that kind of relationships? Look, in a few years, technology will take over, and what will remain as the most important value will be our relationships. So change of or shift of consciousness will help.
I want to ask, again, these are all great ideas. Like it feels like they're very far-reaching. Like if you can sit down and have a conversation with someone, if someone's actually watching this episode, some people do. If they watch it, I know they get, at least questions. Things open up, and we had a lot of guests on the show who were like, "It's now time for radical questions." Remember that Belgian rabbi said, he was like, "It's time for radical questioning."
Rabbi D?
No, the Belgian guy, the Belgian gay rabbi. It was a great episode. Anyways, my point is, he was like, "It's time for radical questioning," and I feel like if we can do it, this is great. The problem is that so much that is happening, and again, I'm speaking specifically about American college campuses where Jews who are not in Israel are, and things went from legitimate and even and encouraged criticism against Israel into this, hatred and joining the other groups. So where's that line? I mean, obviously, we're not saying, nobody here is saying, as we said earlier, we're not saying no to criticism. We're not saying no to friction. We're not saying no to having a clash of ideas. In fact, we welcome this, right? We thrive on it.
Correct.
But how do you how do you I don't know if I want to ask about the generation that needs to be salvaged, or about the ones that are already so corrupted that we should just ignore them. Like I'm trying, like, what do we do with those organizations that are so far to the side that they fell off the map. They're not even Jewish anymore, even though they call themselves Jewish. And also, what do we do with these young people who have almost shut the door to conversation? Like they talk in slogans. They're very emotional. What do you do with it?
I don't think you have to do something with them, because that's the main issue, that we tend to try to correct others instead of correcting ourselves. We need to look inside each and every one of us and see what we as individuals need to do to help the community. But if every person thinks the same way, then we're going to have these connecting points between us. But that's the thing, that we need to. We try to change others. The others are wrong, and we are fine. So this is something. This is something that we need to consider. That first of all, introspection will help to see what I'm doing to help others, or to connect with others, or the opposite. Maybe I'm harming others by trying to change my neighbor. So we end up with the blame game as usual, and we're not helping to improve the situation.
We have to start moving toward a close, unfortunately. I wanna ask you about Israel. The country of Israel. That you and I live here. Seth doesn't live here, but he visits often. We all feel the importance. Like, we can't imagine a world without Israel. Without Israel as a place for Jews, and more. But I also, as we said earlier, and also I read in a few places that there's the Jews in America are sort of like torn, because there's also all kinds of Jews. There's been a lot of intermarriage and assimilation and this and that, but people still have that feeling, and they want to identify it, but they feel alienated from what is happening in Israel in many ways, and in some ways I can't blame them. I myself sometimes feel alienated from what's going on here. At the same time, there's got to be a way to sort of create this bridge, and as we said, there aren't that many of us. So, what if you could speak to Israel? You can choose either speak to Israel, and what would you advise it to do, toward those Jews in America, or if you could speak to Jews in America and advise them to do something about their attitude toward Israel, what would you say to these two sides?
That we need to focus on what unites us and not what separates us, which is the current state. We're always trying to find those spots that divides us. It doesn't matter if it's
us?
That we are one people. We have the same roots.
Well, you say that, but some Orthodox rabbi will say, well, like that was a famous thing with Michael Douglas, right? He came up to make a speech, and like, oh, wait a second, your father's a Jew, your mother's a Christian. I don't like you, but he's doing so much as a Jew, as an ambassador for Israel, right? So what? You say that, but is it what the people in power are saying? Is it what we are saying as a collectively?
I don't know about those who are in power, but it's written that love covers all crimes, right? So if we see each other as family, don't you have differences within your family, with your kids, with your wife, or your ex, whoever? You will always experience it. Why are you smiling? I mean, because you can relate to it, right? And with your kids, I mean, it's the same. Even if you love them dearly, it's part of life. I'm not saying that we're going to be lovey-dovey all the time. It's not realistic to think that way. Still, we're going to have differences. But again, when we see that our enemies are looking at us with a magnifying lens, and And it's amazing the way they are checking every single detail of what's going on in Israel and in the Jewish community. We have no option. I think that that's the main thing, that we have no alternative. We have tried everything. We have tried to explain. We have invested in hasbara, in trying to find ways to say that we are fine and that, you know, it's our right to do anything or any specific action, and nobody cares. So everything depends on us. It's really up to us what our destiny will be. And it's not only our destiny, but our present. And we see it every day. We are receiving from behind many blows, and the world is pushing us. So there's no time to wait. It's our only solution.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but in the chat, James is saying that whenever they hear the world, you know, hearing the word, you know, unite, then those outside the group, they hear the word conspire, you know, and when they hear the word, you know, to do good, people on the outside hear to do good for themselves. Is there a way, you know,
that's the
get out of
key.
this conundrum, or how would you define it?
I think that's the key, that it's not for our own benefit. It's for the sake of the world. Then it's not a conspiracy. It's something that I said before. It's a call to serve, and not to serve ourselves. It's to serve the world. We are a conduit to bring that light to the world. It's a light unto the nations. It's a tenet that it was created by the Jewish people. It's part of our foundation. You love your neighbor as yourself. So again, it's your neighbor. It's for the others.
Well, it's sometimes feel like it's easier to say than to do. Norma, before we close, do you have a favorite quote from the book that you'd like to share with us? Usually we ask our guests to read a quote, and I find them. I have a ton, but as you also have such a great collection, maybe you have that, and I can also, yeah.
Should I choose what I just found? You know, like spontaneously, I found Rabash, Rav Baruch Ashlag quote.
But whatever,
or,
yeah, whatever.
A person must believe that he has a point in the heart, which is a spark that shines. We must always awaken that spark, because at times that spark can light up his actions, so they will illuminate.
I just opened up to page 114. You got a quote from the Sfat Emet. In truth, everything depends on the children of Israel. As much as they correct themselves, all creations follow them. This is, I'd love to open up this next time we speak, this kind of more, these deeper undercurrents of where this is all coming from, why it's coming, and what is the real big goal that we hope to achieve.
It's true. I feel like
making a difference. You open up these subjects, and when you open the discussion to everyone, there's a spark shining.
We hope that it's making someone happy. That's for sure. I feel like Norma is just warming up, so we have to have Norma again. Also, a few people in the chat said that they want to see Norma again. So, plus I shared the link to the book in the chat, Norma, with your permission. So,
of course, thank you very much.
Yeah, and no, I think there's, we're thinking of some other things and panels and events. So, hopefully, this year we'll see it all happening. But it's really thanks to people like you who are ready to, as you said, to talk about these things, to open them up, to really just look it in the eyes and be like, okay, we have to do it. There's no other way. So I hope that more people see it this way, feel that there's no other way. We're the Thejewfunction. We're trying to do our part. Follow us, like us, subscribe, comment, leave a review on Spotify. That always helps our podcast. And we'll see you all on our next show. I'm not sure when it is, but follow up. If you click on the bell, it will let you know when we're up next. And we'll see you next time. That's the Thejewfunction.
Norma. Valeu.
Norma, Seth, all the best.
Thank you.